Welcome to the Rush Hill Community Church, and I'm Pastor Bob, and we are here with our evidence number 2 for the case for Christ's resurrection. We, as human beings, we seem to take a lot of things for granted. The air that we breathe, we take that for granted. The water, the food, all the things that we have, the ability to see and talk, all those things we just kind of take for granted. And believe it or not, I got to thinking about how we take for granted rocks. This, you won't be able to see this one very well, but this is a beautiful rock. Rocks were used and have been used for centuries for all kinds of things. A lot of us still drive on gravel roads. We have billions and billions of yards of concrete with gravel in it. We have all kinds of things for the tools have been used. Arrows for centuries, and tools have been made out of rocks. Even our kids and grandkids can paint them like pizzas or minions. The Bible talks about rocks numerous places, about being strong and steadfast. Jesus Christ even referred to himself as the rock. And he said that for those that do not believe in him, he would be like a stumbling block to them. And he said those who do believe in him, he would be like a capstone, a cornerstone, a foundation for our lives. So it's not surprising that tonight we're going to be talking, evidence number 2, about rocks. Now the Bible tells us that when Jesus died, they put him in a tomb. A tomb was a cave-like structure that was chiseled out by hand. And it was chiseled out nice and big. And then there was an entrance to it. The entrance was usually, according to historians, about 4.5 to 5 foot tall. Now that was kind of validated by John, because the Bible says John had to lean down and look into the tomb. So that makes us believe it was about 4.5, 5 foot tall. Now the stone that was placed in front of it was also chiseled out by hand. And we know that it would have to be about 6 foot tall to be able to completely cover that round hole in the cave or the tomb. Now, there was also a big groove carved out lower. Well, the groove was caved out in front of the tomb's entrance. And then right in front of it, where the stone would rest, it was carved out even deeper. So this stone was shoved in there, rolled in there, and it just kind of punk right in place. A very strong covering and a secure covering for that hole. Now, for years, people have been wondering about how heavy was that rock, that stone. And knowing about how big it was and about how wide it was, they've calculated that it weighed somewhere between 1.5 and 2 tons, 3,000 to 4,000 pounds. Now that's a rock. And it was put there to cover up the tomb and to seal it. Now Mary first noticed when she first got there that the stone had been moved. And that's what the Bible says. It had been moved away. Now, John 20, verse 1, the word that he used means to actually pick up or to carry away. So it wasn't just rolled a little ways, just enough space, but it was completely away, maybe even out of that track, and left right there. So, for the disciples to steal the body, they would have had first gotten past our evidence number 1, all of those soldiers, armed guards, if you will, and then moved this 4,000-pound boulder hurriedly and get the body out of there. Well, that just doesn't make sense. So we know that that was not the way that Jesus' body was removed. So how was it removed? And how was that stone moved? That's what we're covering today, is how was that stone moved? Well, Matthew 28 tells us how it was moved. It said there was a great earthquake, and that an angel of the Lord came and moved that rock. And then, I like this part, he sat on it. And when the guards saw him, they shook, he said, and the Bible says that they shook and they were motionless like a dead man. And that's the truth of how the stone was moved away. So our second piece of evidence today is the rock, the 2-ton heavy rock that was placed in front of the tomb, and as the Bible explains, was moved by an angel who sat on it and said, "Why are you looking for the alive here for the dead?" So again, evidence number 2, rock in front of the tomb. Now, look forward to tomorrow. We're going to do another one tomorrow at about 7 o'clock, and we'll see what that is. And each one, I hope, will be a blessing to you until we get to the last one. And I just pray that this will be a blessing to you all. Again, thank you. And it's Pastor Bob saying goodbye.